Football.
Yes. All right, Sage Rosenfels. Which GM is going to screw it up technologically? Which GM is going to freeze up right at the moment?
Wasn't the Vikings, were they the last team that didn't get their pick in
Bryant McKinney.
in like 2003?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Was it McKinney or was it?
No,
it was Kevin Williams.
It was Kevin Williams. They fell behind. Was it Jacksonville and somebody else? Kansas City.
They didn't get their pick in or something like that.
Yeah, no, you're
correct?
right. Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a problem. It just sort of blows my mind that I lived in a world for a long time, college and pro football, much less the high school sports. And what I was told all the time was overcome adversity. Bad things happen. Find a way to get it done. No excuses. We're a no excuses team. All right? I don't care how rocky the sea is. Just bring the dang boat in.
Football.
I mean, I could go on and on and on. I know your knee hurts. I know. Find a way to get it done. No excuses business, and then that they're really that concerned that they are going to have a terrible draft because people are doing this every single day.
Yeah.
Everybody's not as good. It's not, it's not as effective. My kid probably being home and on Zoom with his teachers and, not having that experience. It's probably not as good. But everyone's on the same level here. So, everyone's dealing with this. Actually, if anything, you go, you know what? I like there's a sort of a bump in the road here. Our team, because we have smart people and we've hired smart people and smart IT people and blah, blah, blah. We're going to have an advantage over these other idiot teams out there and find an advantage there. Instead, they go to this is some huge hardship when, as we all know, and I know fantasy football is not like this type of draft, and I'm sure there's all these things that happened, when somebody picks 14th and we got the 15th pick and we know we have some time, we might throw in a couple videos of some guys and last thing go, who do you really like, and let's go with this guy. That probably happens, but seriously, they all have their boards. They all have the ability to create whatever they want to do at home. This is not that hard. And also, and I was thinking about this earlier, one of the things, the combine is a lot of things. It's the workout, it's the interviews, it's the medical stuff. Obviously, just as a league, it's like one big sort of convention. But what after it, they have all these individual workouts, which we're of course missing out on. So they're not happy about missing these individual workouts. But for the most part, these guys are still doing individual workouts. They're still filming them. They're sending them to all the teams. They're running their 40 times. They're doing all these things. You don't have to be there for all that stuff. You don't have to be anywhere to see somebody run a 40-yard dash, right? We all have phones, and we can all get out that information. On top of it, if they, let's say, didn't go to the combine and a coach didn't interview them at the combine, we have FaceTime. What an invention. You can FaceTime them and actually interview them for as long as you want. You can watch film. You can figure out a way to get it done. And it just sort of blows my mind that any of these coaches are acting like they're put out, or scouts or whoever, compared to the rest of the world who have, to be honest, real jobs, and they are really put out, and they're in some ways like risking their lives for the betterment of the good. And so I'm sort of just like this thing with the NFL coaches and complaining about that the experience is going to be the same. It's not. No one's living the same experience that they did basically 1 month ago.
So, Sage, here's my thing, though, and I think that there's going to be a ton of teams that privately, because they've been told they'll be fine if it's not private, that are going to grumble and complain and moan and, oh, woe is us, we can't. I think you're going to have a few teams, though, probably that skew to the younger side of things with some smart people who observe not just the draft process, but like, let's say the last month plus, and say, what were we doing previously that we've learned that we maybe don't have to do, that was a step that was a waste of time? Because so much of
I think the whole world's learning that, though, right? Like,
right, but football people hate that. They're so ingrained, and this is what we do. I think this is an opportunity. You're right across the board, but especially in sports where we get stuck in the rut of this is how we've always done it, to look at it and say, you know what? In some ways, we insisted on going back to player X for the 19th psychological testing, and we didn't learn a damn thing.
Well, it just, these, like, I just know so many of the quarterbacks coaches around the league, and I know that during the post combine until the draft. Like they're running around. Teams have their private workouts, or like Iowa State, for example, they have a day, and all these scouts and coaches come in for this one day. But there's also other like just individual days where just one team shows up to work out one player. That happened to me like a half dozen times. And obviously they're not doing any of that now. And I sort of wonder if, after not doing any of that, and then these teams that'll have this draft, they go, we really didn't have to fly around to all those places to work out all those people individually. We've got you don't even have to really go to the combine because it's all on film. It blows my mind that when they run 40s that there's like 50 scouts standing there at the 40-yard line, like with their watch out. Like it's an electric thing. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. It's like
hilarious.
It's all electric now. It's on video. You don't even. I know for like Kyle Shanahan, the quarterbacks threw on Thursday night. Kyle Shanahan flew home either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. It's all on film. It's probably even better on TV a lot of times. Whatever. So
there was a movie made about this. It was called Moneyball with Brad Pitt, in which he fired all the scouts when there's a truth like Billy Bean fired traditional scouts and said, well, I mean, we just have
guys were talking about baseball face.
Yeah.
They're like, that guy has a baseball face. I like him.
I could probably walk. Yeah, there might be a way to walk up to the Vikings and go, hey, I got a way to save you guys like $500,000 if I do that. Will you give me like 20% of it? Usually you do everything over video now and don't fly everywhere and all these things. So I don't know. I mean, again, everyone's on the same level. Again, everyone's put out in the situation right now. The draft will go on. I'm not totally against the draft occurring. I know we're in this national crisis, but I do have this thing of people should try to do business if they can do business and keep things sort of moving if possible. Yeah. And also that when these players do get drafted, they're not going to have an off season. They're not going to have all these OTAs and rookie mini camps and regular mini camps, that whole thing. They're going to be, I guess, training by themselves or however they're doing it, and having Zoom meetings with their quarterbacks coach. It's probably already occurring with some teams where they're actually having meetings and they're somehow watching film, and they're doing those types of things that they normally would do together. So it's important for these guys to actually get on a team. I think that's, the more I think about it, the more people were talking about pushing the draft back. I don't mind doing it now, get it done, so at least these guys can learn the mental aspect of the game throughout the summer, because if there's a season coming up, they're going to get very, very few reps, and they have to be on top of it mentally right off the bat.
Sage, while it shouldn't be a handicap or a hindrance for anybody, do you think it's maybe an advantage for some of the more technologically advanced teams out there? I'm sure there are coaches, coordinators in this league.
Oh no, seriously, like the coaches that are over 65, it's hilarious,
right?
How terrible they are with the computer stuff. I mean, it's funny. It's
Dude, Nick Saban literally, I think he's telling the truth. Nick Saban, I get a college coach, but he said that he just got email set up for the first time this week because his assistant, who'd been answering his email for 20 years, said, I'm not going to do this for you remotely. I'm not going to print out emails and put them on your desk. Nick Saban just got email, and he's been fine without it. Would be the argument.
And I remember in 1999, maybe 2000, going to my senior year, we got a new computer system at Iowa State where everything really was on a computer system. Before that, it was these beta tapes up until 98 or something like that, which was a smaller version of a VHS tape, right? So now you actually had things in sort of Excel spreadsheets, and you could just go to that play. And my quarterbacks coach, great guy, he struggled with that thing the whole year. I couldn't tell you how many times that he had to make a phone call to the video guy, and the video guy walked down the hallway into the quarterback's room just to press a button, and it was just not his. He wasn't raised that way. My parents struggle sometimes. I've been trying to teach my mom, who's 73, cut and paste for 5 years, just for whatever reason doesn't work out very well. So the older coaches, that a lot of times they really do struggle with some of the technology stuff, but I think this stuff's pretty easy. I mean, I said, I've helped out with my son and my kids sometimes with getting on Zoom or getting on these different types of websites that help them sort of do a one-on-one thing for my daughter's dance class or my son's school. They've made this thing so simple. And by the way, all these teams have IT people, not one. They have multiple IT people. They have multiple video people, which are basically IT people also. They build websites. They have TV stations. Like, they have all the technology possibilities that most companies don't have. They do all that stuff in-house, and they have those people. I understand, like, if somebody doesn't want somebody to come into their house and those types of things, but they can find a way to do it. And the good thing is they have plenty of time. Like, they've known that it's going to be about a 6-week window from when the U.S. sort of shut down in a sense of all the social distancing until they have 6 weeks to figure out how to not screw it up. But I guess we will see what happens.
So, all right, here's a football-y question.
Football.
So, the Vikings aren't going to be able to gather.
I hate that thing, by the way. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, we can use this one instead.
Come on! Football!
We can mix it up.
Just change it up at least.
Football!
Football, yeah! Football! What do you hate the least?
Hey, we did a mock draft yesterday with Collar, and they had the chimes for the draft.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Inject that into my veins.
That I don't like.
What do you mean?
I don't like the chimes.
What? Why?
I'm sorry, just don't.
It tells you the pick is in.
Are you kidding me, John?
How else would you know that the pick
It
is in?
immediately gets your heart rate up, does it not? It immediately goes, oh, what's going on? Who is it?
Yeah, and
I want it quicker.
I need Mel Kiper to shut up for a second because the pick is in. That's what it means. Okay?
He's not taking a bathroom break.
No. Okay, here's my question. So the Vikings and other teams aren't going to be able to gather and go through OTAs, and I'm going to assume that anything before training camp would ordinarily be scheduled, and this is optimistic even for training camp in July. Like, you're not going to be able to gather in the next month and a half, right? Well, if you're the Vikings, you got 12 draft picks. You're going to have a bunch of new faces on defense. You might even still sign a couple free agents, and you probably have a new number 2 wide receiver in this Sharp kid that they just signed from the Titans, right? So,
well, I don't know if he'll be the 2 guy. He might be, but I sort of feel like I think there's a good chance that they could draft with the first or either one of those first round picks a guy like DK Metcalf. Like, they need a stud, a guy that can really roll and really fly with one of these wide receivers.
So if they do that though, and I agree with you, I think they should. How important is it or how big of a problem is it, I guess, to be missing out on OTAs? You're going to have to have discussions virtually about timing. Like, it doesn't help the Vikings.
Yeah, this is a problem but again, it's a problem for everybody. Well, let's look at the advantages the Vikings have. All right, same head coach for multiple years, right? Like, sort of the system is in place. Yes, they do have new coaches on the coach staff, in particular on defense this year. Kubiak steps in. Offense has not changed. That's pretty much going to be the exact same quarterback. And a lot of the guys that are starting and playing have been starting and playing for a couple years. It's not like there's a lot of guys coming off their rookie year. So I think they're in a lot of better position than a lot of other teams who have new head coaches and young quarterback and those scenarios. And there's a lot of those out there, right? So I think the Vikings are in a pretty good position, but they do need, as everyone knows, between 3 and maybe up to even 5 starters. I think on this football team that right now they don't really have a spot for. So I think the number's 3 or 4. They definitely need a corner. Hopefully Mike Hughes steps in and starts at one corner. And question who the other guy's going to be. There's defensive end. They're going to need an offensive line, probably a guard. But they have some spots here. But I think having the same head coach, same staff for the most part, and the quarterback the same, I think that gives them more advantages than a lot of other teams have.
So, Sage, can a rookie QB who, like Burrow or Tua gets drafted in the top 5, if we have as little of off-season programs as we expect, is it feasible to ask them to start in 2020, or do they have almost no chance and you're going to be forced to, if you are going to start them, wait, I don't know, take your pick, 5 to 8 games?
That is an interesting question. I think a lot has to do with how educated are they when they left college football. I think Joe Burrow would have a pretty good sort of step on a lot of other quarterbacks because Joe Brady, his passing game coordinator at LSU last year, he's in the NFL now, and he was in the NFL before. It was pro style. It was probably a version of West Coast because Sean Payton is West Coast terminology. the Cincinnati Bengals, West Coast terminology. All right, he comes from the Sean McVay system, which is the Kyle Shanahan system, which is the Kubiak system, which is the Shanahan system, which goes to the old schools, right? So he's all part of that tree. So he might be one of those guys that could step in right off the bat and not have to have it. It's going to hurt all these guys, but the real struggle is when those guys are coming from systems that are completely different. They're not going to have any of the off-season stuff. Those guys, it's, again, I even look at myself. I look at Anthony Gordon from Washington State, a kid that I worked with, and, they had like 10 pass plays and 2 running plays. They didn't have all the, they didn't talk about coverages and all these things all that much. They didn't talk about protections almost at all. He would have that's a big jump for those types of guys versus a guy who's, basically had NFL style coaching already in college like Joe Burrow.
Sage, I saw Trent Dilfer say today that Tua Tagovailoa is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's crazy talk, right? Have you ever seen a quarterback coming out of college and went, that guy's a Hall of Famer? For sure.
Well, Trent Dilfer was paid to train him,
True.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. Do I have to say anything more than that? He said today, I thought I saw he had, and I love Trent, but I thought he said that he had a stronger arm than Dan Marino. Now, I grew up watching Dan Marino. That dude has a cannon, and he still can throw it. Like, some guys can just throw it. Dan Marino was like, Brett Favre called him when he passed him for like the record for most touchdowns or whatever it was. He said Dan Marino, I think he didn't say quarterback. He said, I think he's the greatest thrower of all time. I'm sorry, Tua is not the greatest thrower of all time. He's 22 years old or whatever he is. I don't think he has a cannon. I don't think he has that strong of an arm. I look at, some people described him, I think he's got a strong arm like a Drew Brees, but he is great on the sort of the short, medium, mid-range, 15-yard, 18-yard down the field. He's not a guy who throws 65-yard posts like Pat Mahomes. I really have no idea what Trent Dilfer is talking about.
You think you like football? Trent Dilfer doesn't just really like football. He loves football.